Yeah, well, and that's legitimate. I guess for me, your point about it's funny, like that does resonate with me because I thought that way for a long time. I would look at something like that and say, oh, we're doing it for the lulz. We're doing it, because we're trolling Macron, we're trolling everybody. But what I have come to learn over the years is that a lot of the things that seem random or seem like they're based on hype, they're all coordinated. And that doesn't
Absolutely.
mean that
That is
everything.
that is true. That
Yeah.
is absolutely true. And there are systems and there are groups and there are piles of money being thrown around. You're absolutely right about that. I want to make it clear. You're completely correct.
Yeah, so that's where and I'm not saying, and I said it on Bradley Martin, as far as Candace is concerned, I said everything I say about the Brigitte Macron thing is speculative. Is it a Russian operation? I said that is a theory. That's like a working postulate that I haven't really even researched, but just that's sort of where my gut says. And we just do need to be mindful. As I grow older, I see these kinds of memes, trends, and it's easy when you're 18 and you have no orientation of politics. You kind of like, when you're a kid, you don't know how this stuff works. And for me, I was a young edgelord. I was a young shit poster troll. And you'd see the bigger accounts in the group chats pushing a meme, a certain narrative, something, and you say, oh, I like this poster. I like Gavin McInnes. I like this guy, that guy, whatever. What they're pushing is funny. And I'm just using him as an example of a big poster. Yeah. And you go, yeah, we're going to join in on this. And as I get older, I realize a lot of that stuff is backed by money. It's coordinated. It is like, it's a domain of warfare. It's information warfare. And that's why I scrutinize it a lot more and I'm very careful. I fully believe that Candace believes what she's saying. I actually don't doubt her sincerity. I just think that whole narrative, maybe someone gave it to her. It might be a possibility. And even to the extent that it exists in Russia, it's either kookery or it is being picked up by an intelligence agency for some reason, because it's very strange and conspicuous, the whole thing. So especially this this idea that the West is like satanic pedophile elite. I don't doubt that there's something like that going on when you look at like Spirit Cooking and the Podestas and Pizzagate. I also think that sometimes foreign intelligence leans into narratives like that to sow discontent or dissonance inside of our society. And it's our job to discern those things. It doesn't mean that every narrative like that is fake. It doesn't mean, and not every narrative like that is true. It's up to us to discern. Yes. And so as far as the Brigitte thing is concerned, I think Candace is sincere. I don't find it very compelling. And I think at the minimum, it is being picked up by Russia on some level because Russia is adversaries with France. And as you know, the more you get into politics, the more you realize everything proceeds from intelligence and defense. Everything proceeds from the national security state.
Yep.
The energy needs, the technology, the media, information domain. These are all domains of warfare. We're in the age of complexity. And so if I can impress nothing else on my followers, it's that. It's all warfare. It's all ongoing, open, everyone against everyone warfare, even in the information space.
And this is what I've been harping on a lot in my streams is that, and he really pinpointed it perfectly there, is, when you're young and impressionable, you do see memes and stuff online, you see pictures, images of things, and you're like, oh, that's funny. And that's great. And I enjoy that. And who is it coming from? Well, it's coming from one of my favorite content. It's coming from Nick Fuentes. It's coming from Andrew Tate. It's coming from Myron. And I like these guys, and they say a lot of things that resonate with me because I'm in a position that they have accurately dissected and have told me certain elements about myself. They have given me advice and kind of a medicine. They have medicated me on how to live my life. So I agree with that. And they're posting memes and they're saying things that they prime you with the information and things they say, and then they post the memes which contain another sect of information that then also reinforce and direct you towards a certain way of thinking. And I absolutely think people need to be on guard. You need to be on guard, not just with memes, especially when they come out of nowhere and you're like, where the hell did this come from? I see that all the time. You see memes pop up all the time. You're like, what the hell is even this? But it's like, whoa, maybe it's being pushed by someone for a reason. And all the accounts, again, we don't really know. There's anonymous accounts on there. We don't know if they're legit or who they are or what their purpose is for posting. But it could absolutely be to, hey, here, proliferate, push this meme. because we want people to think a certain way about whatever it might be. And so I think people just need to take a step back with a lot of the stuff they see online. The internet, this is like the number one propaganda machine. This is like the technocrats' dream. This is the CIA. This is the National Security Agency. This is their dream. The internet X, all this is like, oh my God, this is filet mignon to them for propaganda. And we have to discern, like he's saying, you have to discern. And not just with the memes, but also with the people you're watching. That even if they say certain things that you agree with, hey, he's a conservative just like me. Hey, he says he's a Christian just like me. You also have to say, well, wait a minute. I can't just buy wholesale into what he's saying just because we overlap on a couple things. And that's kind of how I've been with Nick. That's kind of how I've been with everybody on the internet, is that like everybody I watch, I'm like, I watch people for entertainment. I listen to people, but I also am hesitant to say, yeah, that's the way it is, people. Get with it. And even when you have like conflict in the open sphere, like on X, when you see the Elon and Trump thing, oh, Elon's calling Trump, he was on the Epstein list. But then you find out that he's still donating to him, and he deletes the post and he retracts it a few days later. You go, what the hell was all that for? Do you think a multi-billionaire, do you think the richest man on earth is like just going to make accusations like that for no reason? No, it's for your viewing pleasure. It's for the society of spectacle we live in, for you to view this show that they're putting on. But all the while, they're still pushing the AI agenda. They're still donating to his super PAC. And so when I see something like this, it's like, I absolutely think, I don't even know how much of this is real. When Candace and Nick go at it on the timeline, it's a show. But like, is it real? I don't know. It's tough to discern. I'd like to just take it at face value and say, yep, it's real. Yep, Andrew Tate's on our side. Myron, Nick Fuentes, they're all on our side, guys. But like at the same time, I'm like, wait a minute, what? They could absolutely be being paid by people to push a certain narrative, push a certain agenda, have this fight in the public sphere.
I think we got to slay the elves. I'm more worried about the elves than the orcs. We got to slay the dark elves, if you know what I'm saying, metaphorically and politically. I disagree, and I think that in 2027, the Groypers are going to overthrow Vance. Steve Bannon actually went on his show, and he said that he might run in 2028 because he doesn't think Vance has what it takes. And I'm with Bannon on this one, because Vance is the connector for Silicon Valley. That's how he got the VP slot. That's what gave him all this clout. That's how he got in the Senate. He's the connector for Elon,
mentored
for
by Peter Thiel,
for David Sachs, for that whole crew. And maybe you're not interested in all that. And look, you have a different perspective. You're in Europe. I know a lot of Europeans that are super pro Vance because he is an advocate for those guys. On some level, I understand because you are in another country. I get that. But at least in America, this guy's a big problem, literally and figuratively. He's fat, and he's like a major problem. So big, conceptually. And so for me, I said this the other day, 2027, the Groypers are going to descend on Iowa, and we will overthrow him. We will overthrow him. Over my dead body will he be the nominee.
And that's a good point. This is the angle here. And this is when he said that, I'm thinking, okay, is this, like we've said, Nick has been delegitimized from the political conservative sphere for 10 years, roughly. If he's going to say, well, we're going to fight J.D. Vance's nomination in 2028, you don't think that there's other people out there who would love that spot? Even he just said Steve Bannon might try and run. Steve Bannon. So you don't think that there is an incentive there for Nick? If Nick's on somebody's side, if he says, well, I'm going to counter signal J.D. Vance, which I've been doing forever, and I hate this guy. You don't think there's somebody else out there who's thinking, oh, this guy's got some pull. He's got some political pull out there. He's got people who watch him and follow him, but we need to legitimize him. He was a pariah, but we need to somehow make him more of a mainstream voice if he's going to be advocating for our interests and advocating against J.D. Vance in 28. But how do we do that? We can't just say he's good now. No, you got to start a fight online. You got to say, okay, well, Candace is going to have this interview. She's going to run his name through the mud, call him a Fed. Everybody's a Fed, which, again, I don't know. That could be true. But ultimately, he's going to land on a certain team that's going to utilize the Groypers and utilize his political pull to potentially push another name to the forefront. That's a possibility. I don't know if that's what's happening, but that's a possibility that you could see a Steve Bannon type come out of the woodwork in 28. And the Groypers can diminish the power that J.D. Vance has so that somebody else can take the throne. And he might be making compromises. Nick might be making compromises. You should keep an eye on Nick and his rhetoric and what he talks about. I saw him use the word Zionist the other day. And to me, I was like, Zionist? Nick, you've always been a hard J word. You've always been these are the Jews. There's no distinction between Zionists and Jews. He said the Zionists. And I was like, oh, interesting. I don't know. Maybe they said you need to tailor your speech a little more. People are on board with the anti-Zionism stuff. But you can't be like all Jews. I don't know. People should keep an eye on that. This is all speculative. This is all off the top of my brain. But that is an interesting angle you need to think about. Again, this is a person on the screen with followers, and they got political pull. And as we know, if you want to make any moves in this domain, in the political sphere, with the system that's been in place, you're going to get a lot of pushback. And what you have to do is make compromises, as the MAGA movement has done. I don't think Fuentes is a Fed. I don't know. Like, I'm being serious. Like, I don't even know. You can say that maybe he started out that way. I think the MAGA movement started out that way. I think it started out organically. I don't even think Trump wanted to win in 2016. And clearly, by his presidency, the first time, it was a shit show. He was firing people left and right. He didn't have anybody. He didn't know what the hell he was doing. And we know that. But then the second time around, he knows what to do now. Because he's got a lot of people behind him. He knows who the good guys are and the bad guys are, who are the people who are going to be on his side, because he's made compromises with these people. They're tied up with him, he's tied up with them. And I think it started out original and organic, but I think it quickly got co-opted in the second term. Maybe the whole point of the Tucker and Candace thing was to bring Nick into the circle. Absolutely. I think it was, well, we can't just like affirm you because we've been talking shit about you forever and you made compromises with us and our side. Maybe they're going to be on the Steve Bannon side. Maybe Tucker and Candace are going to be on the Steve Bannon side. And they're like, we'll have you on our team. You made compromises with us, but we can't just outright say, hey, Nick's our friend now. That's not going to work. You have to create the spectacle, the illusion of, no, he's actually a bad guy. Watch, he'll have a sit down with Tucker and it'll be this amazing conversation. And he even said that. It doesn't even have to be a debate. It can be a discussion. They'll have a discussion. Tucker will go, yeah, this guy ain't so bad. He got a lot of same takes I have and we have. Now he's on your side. Now he's in your circle. Because you got to think about it. Trump's done, right, after this year, after this administration. What is the future of the right wing going to look like in this country? That's absolutely a pressing question on everybody's mind. Is it going to be the J.D. Vance, Peter Thiel types, the tech bros? They're the presumptive, he's the presumptive nominee. So it's right, but there could be other people that pull out. You know, there's the Thomas Masseys of the world, the libertarian kind of people. They're also around there. But there also could be another Steve Bannon type crowd that kind of pulls out. And it's really, this is the fight for the future of the right wing in this country because it's no longer Trump. Trump's done. So now we're thinking ahead. What's going to be happening in 2028? That's something you absolutely have to think about. And if you can get the Groypers on your side, the people who go out there and go to the events and they are rabid and they are young, that's an asset. And if Nick's looking to legitimize himself in the political sphere, he might absolutely say, this is what I have. I have the AF Institute, whatever it is, the AF PAC. You need to legitimize me and have me on your team. And they say, okay, we can do that as long as you do maybe X, Y, Z. I don't know. I don't know what they are. And he goes, okay. But in order to legitimize it, we have to have a spectacle that gets people on board. We have to have a story to tell and sell to people, like 9/11. We sold you a story to tell. You know, we all went up there in front of Congress and told the fucking story. Tony Blair tells a fucking story.
This is the time for this House, not just this government or indeed this Prime Minister, but for this House to give a lead. To show that we will stand up for what we know to be right. To show that we will confront the tyrannies and dictatorships and terrorists who put our way of life at risk. To show at the moment of decision that we have the courage to do the right thing. I beg to move the motion.
And everybody buys it. No, it's legit, right? I don't know.
But once again, I wish you guys the best, the absolute best. You probably noticed I'm enjoying my summer. So I'm glad you guys are holding it down and keeping it real. and saying all the racist things that need to be said. So I really wish you the best, and I'm not your enemies in any way. And I'm always happy to come online and discuss and explain why any of our points of view or any of the things we retweet or XYZ come across a certain way. Anyone who believes I'm a Fed, I strongly think you should have your head checked. And I'd love to know where these Feds are when I'm getting thrown in jail. And anyone who thinks I'm pro-Jew, I'd love to know where their money is, because I don't have any of that shit. So
that's the interesting part. Anybody like, okay, it's like, let us know you're a Fed without telling us you're a Fed. Like, what kind of person? Anybody who thinks I'm a Fed, you're like crazy. You're like crazy. Like, you're like, you need to get your head checked. Like, what? That sounds crazy to me. Tristan Tate is very pro-Vance. Yeah, he is. So is Andrew. And another element, which we're going to get into in a minute, is the Muslim element too. The Muslim question, which I think people are overlooking hardcore. But Andrew Tate is, interestingly enough, we're going to look at in a minute, is that he has said on podcast his father was in the CIA, just like Tucker said. And it's like interesting that he comes on here and he's like, I'm not a Fed, guys. But you have to think like, okay, he says, well, I was in prison. Well, dude, prison is like the ripest of spots for the CIA or Mossad or whoever to pick you up and say, we'll let you out if you do what we want. And then they go, okay, that's the compromise. Okay, fine. You get pinched by the Feds, they got you hook, line, and sinker.
So your dad was in the CIA, right?
Yes.
And growing up, you're learning chess off your dad. He's teaching you about the CIA operations that he may have been involved with. You and I both know the CIA like to control both sides of narratives geopolitically.
Yes.
Yep.
They own the good side of the argument and they own the bad side of the argument.
Yep.
So people have got it in their heads that you could be, controlled opposition in this case. Are you controlled opposition?
Well, I see why some people may think that, I guess. I mean, it's pretty empty logic.
I guess.
I think what I try and do is convince people to think for themselves as opposed to make them think anything at all.
From the masculine perspective, if you're controlled opposition, yeah, you've got a good narrative. But from the female perspective, if you're controlled opposition, you could potentially have a different perspective.
Yeah, but if I was controlled opposition, I don't think I would have gone to jail.
So you're...
Oh, that's your one reasoning that you wouldn't have gone to jail? Oh, okay. He wants to use the jail thing as such an excuse, but Peter Thiel wrote the diversity myth, which is anti-liberal, anti-multicultural, which is a lot of what these people espouse. Andrew Tate specifically, he's misogynist, racist, all this shit, homophobic, whatever. And so he's like a prime candidate for picking up. Even if it wasn't organic, he got sent to prison. Well, then that's the time when you pick him up. We'll get you out if you do our bidding. Here he is again.
If we're talking about Russia in general, my scope on the world and my view on the world has been shaped by my father's view. My father was obviously American intelligence, so I guess I should be very, very pro-West. But when you look at the world for what it actually genuinely is, I believe the Russians have had a pretty hard deal. And I believe that in the West, we are sold and we are told that the Russians...
Why isn't Nick calling this out? He's quick to call out Tucker. Tucker's father was in the CIA. He's admitting his father was intelligence. Where's that?
The Russians are always the bad guys. The Russians are doing the bad thing in Syria. The Russians are doing this bad. The Russians are doing that bad. When in reality, we do the bad things. We funded a whole bunch of groups in Syria so they'd fight ISIS. Those groups are fighting ISIS and the legitimate government and fuck knows who else, because we don't know who they're fighting. And Russia's just blowing up anyone who's not the government. I agree with Russia. I think they're doing the right thing. If we're talking about...
Absolutely. The governments are using these Muslim proxy groups to reorient the region and fight against people who they might see as a bigger threat. Al-Qaeda, ISIS, these kinds of groups to cause terror in the region so they can get the reactions they want. That's true. So he's not wrong about that. It's all about power. This is something people need to understand. It's all about power. They don't care. They'll play both sides. And even if it's... People want to sit in the paradigm of going, well, they're not woke. They're sexist. They're misogynist. They're racist. So they're clearly on my side. Dude, the paradigm's been shifted over there. The paradigm, they came out with an ad about Sydney Sweeney's jeans. They're cool. They're down. Oh, right. You guys want to be racist? Sure, we'll do that. Is that what the people want? As long as we can funnel in the shit that we want and keep progressing our agenda, we don't give a fuck what you guys want to say about people. None of it matters. It's all about power. By the way, I think if Nick ended up on the side of the next, quote, big celebrity MAGA politician, end quote, I would consider that guy might be a good candidate. Absolutely. Absolutely. If you sit there and there's a figure who's saying, I am so clean, squeaky clean, that I'm actually getting pinched and I'm the victim and they're always attacking me, which they did. I'm not saying they haven't. Then you would say, well, this guy must be onto something. And anything going forward, he must be onto it. And that must be the correct take. So if he sidles up next to Steve Bannon or whoever in 2028, you sit there and go, this guy's against that regime. He's against the regime, the woke libtard regime, and I'm on his side because they pinched him hard. Well, it's like, wait a minute, is that what's happening? These people are smart. Propagandists are smart. Vance was against Trump. Now he is Trump's VP. Maybe Nick will be Vance's VP. LOL. Right. Oh, another thing too, in that Candace interview, if you recall, Nick also said, I believe it was in the Candace interview, he also said, he said, well, back when I was younger, he said, I used to think that finding the most competent man and making him dictator, that was like the move. That was like my political philosophy. But he said, but now I'm starting to think, he said this too, now I'm starting to think that some of the institutions we put in place do have, there is a merit to them. There is a quality to them that maybe we should, and he said, maybe I'm just getting older, and that could very well be legitimate. But I'm just saying that would be a pretext to say, okay, maybe I'm going to tone down some rhetoric. Maybe I'm just going to talk about Zionists. Maybe I'm not going to be so harsh on everybody all the time. Maybe I'm going to reel back, and maybe I'm going to start to agree with some of the age-old institutions we've had. Tucker and Candace do not want to prioritize Israel, nor does Vance. That's the thing, though, is that it's over, though. Israel got what it wanted from us. That's the funny thing. Especially by the end of this administration, if we bomb Iran again and keep bombing their nuclear programs, they're done. They're like, we don't need you anymore. Israel's like, what do we need you for? You've secured the region. You've completely secured the region. We can drop your ass. And I think they're absolutely okay with doing that. So is that the macro move to make? To say, now we're going to move to an anti-Zionist approach. And the Jews are like, okay, we're cool with that. Yeah, fine. All right, we can totally just disconnect you. We're cool with that. If the politics want to be against giving us aid, fine. We don't need you anymore anyways. They're already putting the AI system in, man. They're already putting the grid in. And that's going to be pro-Israel for sure. So we're cool. We don't need that. We're cool. They're going to start annexing portions of Ukraine. We're moving right as planned. We're cool. We secured our region, and now we're going to start to expand the octopus of the New World Order through AI. We're good. We don't need you people. You guys can talk shit about us now.